6.5 left in the second. Brody Kearns chips it down low, and Cooper Vickerman slaps it home. It's his first as a Navy vet. He comes down the far side, winds into the middle, and rips it home to give the Navy vets the lead. It's 3-2 Woodstock with 10 minutes to go.
What a weekend for Cooper Vickerman, the 19-year-old from Queensville, Ontario, with 4 goals and 2 assists in his Navy vets debut on the first weekend of the Doherty Division season. He is currently tied with 6 points for second overall in PJHL scoring. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Anchortown Report. My name is Darren Stevenson. I am your host, as well as the executive producer of 519 Sports Online. This week on the show, we will hear from Navy Vets assistant coach Chris Nauts. He will break down the weekend that was and look ahead to the upcoming weekend, where the Navy Vets have 2 more games. On Friday night, they will host the Paris Titans at Southwood. Then on Saturday, it's their first game on the road as they travel to Wellesley to take on the Applejacks. The Navy Vets splitting their first 2 games of the year with a 7-3 victory over Wellesley on Friday night. Then on Sunday, a 4-3 overtime loss to the Norwich Merchants. First, let's take a look at Friday night. The Navy Vets were trailing 3-2 after 2 periods, but they exploded in the third with 5 goals. Here are those goals from Southwood on Friday night against the Applejacks.
Barnes wires one from the point, and it finds its way through traffic to tie the game up again for Woodstock. It's 3-3. Cooper Vickerman's shot gets tipped home by Nolan Brett to give the Navy Vets the lead with another power play goal. It's 4-3 Woodstock. 2 minutes later, Austin Doolittle forces it by at the blue line. He's got a breakaway as he speeds in, and he wires it home to extend the Woodstock lead. It's 5-3. 3 minutes left in the third. It's a penalty shot for Owen Ireton. He winds down the middle of the ice, and he puts it 5-hole. His first in Woodstock gives the Navy Vets a 3-goal lead. It's 6-3.
Speaking of outstanding performances on their first weekend as a Navy vet, Owen Ireton, who you saw score there, would also add an empty netter. He had 5 points over the weekend, so he looks sharp as well, along with Cooper Vickerman, both new players to the Navy Vets and both playing really well. Moving on to Sunday, it was an overtime game between the Navy Vets and the Merchants, and penalties were costly for Woodstock. Let's take a look at the end of Sunday's game at Southwood Arena.
Norwich on the power play and with the net empty, looking to tie the game. Brandon Balaz takes a shot. It's blocked, but Tyler McDowell fires home the loose rebound to tie this one up for Norwich with 16 seconds left in regulation and force overtime. In the extra frame, Norwich on the power play again. Brandon Balaz exchanging passes with Andrew Grant. Balaz fires it from the near circle and scores the overtime winner for Norwich to give them a 4-3 road victory.
So you've seen the highlights from Friday and Sunday's game. Now let's break it all down and get some analysis. Here's our conversation with Navy Vets assistant coach Chris Nauts. The Navy Vets get a possible 3 out of 4 points on the opening weekend of the PJHL season with the win over Wellesley and then the overtime loss to the Merchants on Sunday. Chris, what are your takeaways from the 2 games to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good start to the year for sure. Like you said, 3 out of 4 points is, it's not the 4, but at the same time, coming into against the game against Norwich, we had a slow start, so it kind of shoots you in the foot a little bit. So it's a lesson learned. You got to start on time for sure, especially in this division. We started out against 2 very good teams, so being able to battle against Wellesley on Friday and then kind of slowly get ourselves into the game on Norwich and still have an opportunity to win was huge. So I think it's a big lesson for the kids that we do have to start on time. We are a very good team, we're a strong team, but we still have to play the right way.
Let's talk about the Wellesley game. Let's break that one down a little bit. You're down after the second period. I don't know what was said in the room, but clearly something shifted. That power play goal from Barnes, I think, kind of sparked things in the third period there. What happened in the third, and how were you able to find a way? Because like you said, Wellesley's a real good hockey team, and to do what you did in the third period, I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I would say for the first 2 periods there, they were very good at, kind of getting us into a little of the extracurriculars after the whistle. I would say almost every scrum, they had a third guy coming in on the backside and giving a guy a little whack, and there was no free space out there. Their forwards did a really good job of keeping everybody honest out there, that's for sure. Then in the third period, I think just maybe a little bit of our conditioning and just being maybe, used to playing on the big ice, just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And you could see that intensity from them kind of trailing off. And then a lot of the skill of some of our top guys really took over. So it kind of just wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a mentality flip at all. It was just addressing the, get out of the crap kind of, and then just keep going. And once we did that, I think the ice opened up a lot for us.
So impressions of Wellesley then. First time you've seen them this year. You play them this Saturday night in their rink. Never easy to go to the Orchard. Everybody knows that. What did you take away from that in terms of where Wellesley's strong and what they look like to kind of start the season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, they'll keep you honest, which is exactly what we need, especially early on in the season. Our skill sometimes I think will defer from us trying to push through, some of those hardships of the games and stuff like that, right? So coming in and playing them back to back, first 2 weekends is huge for us to just keep pushing, 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 and playing the right way.
Cooper Vickerman. There's a name that stands out. Owen Ireton, another one. Vickerman had 6 points in 2 games. Big goal Friday night. Then obviously the penalty shot goal on Sunday. Ireton with two on Friday night. You're going to rely on those guys to score, but what a way for them to start and maybe just build their confidence as they join this new team in Woodstock. Talk about those two players. Simply, just great starts.
Yeah, so I mean, when you get big names like that, we don't necessarily, especially when the four of us played, we didn't have drop down guys like that showed up, right? So you get definitely getting some like big ticket names like that was huge. You're never quite sure because you don't know these kids ahead of time, right? The online watching of kids now, being able to see their video of previous shifts is incredible. So we were able to comb through all of that. So it was really easy to kind of, you understood their game, but you didn't know who they were, as people. So when Ireton Owen's been here for a little while, just because, he lives just down the road in Cambridge. So he was there kind of just at the start of camp, and what a kid, right? Super respectful, competes his ass off out there. Never will tell you no. He just wants to be here and he wants to win, and it shows, right? Vickerman as well too. We joked, me and Chris Jensen, when we were watching this video of him when he played for the Palm Panthers, there is he just kind of oozes that kind of swagger, I guess you would call it. And then when he scored that goal against Wellesley, and he goes down to his knee and he heads right at the crowd, and then he does it against Norwich, and we were looking at each other on the bench like, because you would, as I can't imagine sitting there on the other bench because you would hate that, right? So they're as advertised. They're leaders as well too, right? Which is huge. If you're going to have guys like that come into your room, they're vocal on the bench. Ireton's a little bit quieter, right? He just goes about his business because he knows he can get it done, right? So to him, nothing's going to phase him. He, even if he's frustrated, you can see it in his eyes. It's that internal of, I'm just going out there and doing it. There is no, hey, pity me. I'm frustrated. And Vickerman's a little bit more of that vocal, right on the bench in the first couple shifts of the Wellesley game. Our start wasn't quite there. Local kids are probably a little bit more nervous playing in front of the fans there. Like I know, how that feels. You've got friends, family, whatever, you're going to school, people know what happens. So for these kids to come in and, kind of push us along a little bit has been huge, and definitely they're coming as advertised, that's for sure.
Here's the thing with Ireton. When he speaks, and you're right, he's a quieter kid. When he speaks, he means it, though, and everybody should listen. And my favorite part of that Vickerman goal was, I know you talk about him skating at the crowd. He skated right at the camera, too. So it was a perfect 519 shot. Norwich, Sunday, 4-3 OT loss. The thing that stood out to me, obviously, was the penalty in regulation at the end there that allowed them to tie it late, and then they get another power play goal in overtime. Those are the two things that maybe jump off the box score to me. What jumps off for you?
It would have been the first period for us. We're kind of in that limbo right now of, we know we're good, and it's kind of, how hard do I have to work today kind of thing. So we're trying to, kind of shake that out. It is early still too, right? We're still not really deep dived into our style of play. I hate the word system. So like for us, just a style of play where we're putting pucks, how are we going to play? We ended up having to make adjustments to Norwich, which is something that, it's going to happen. But if you're playing the right way, the talent in the group that we have, we shouldn't be having to make adjustments like that. But again, at the end of the day, it is the first period. That's not the reason we lost. You can't blame anybody else but ourselves, because we put ourselves down to nothing. And thankfully, Kobe Nadalin, young 16-year-old local kid, was able to battle hard in there and keep us in it as well, too.
And that was going to be my next question. Just Nadal in his first start, obviously against a rival team in Norwich. What were your impressions of him? He seemed to be pretty calm, cool, and collected in there because he had the nerves. Absolutely. First home start against a rival team.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially for him too. There, I know he's got some family members on the other side there in Norwich as well too, right? So there was the big section there. They were flipping back and forth, Woodstock and Norwich. So for him to come in and do that was awesome. 16. I can't imagine the pressure that he puts on himself every day when he shows up. With his helmet there, decal, with his dad playing and everything like that. Like I'm sure it was a cool moment for the whole family there, and awesome for him to just keep battling the way he did. And I'm excited to see how he does the rest of the year as well.
32 minutes. That is how much ice time Charlie Barnes played during Sunday afternoon's game. I know this kid's going to be a workhorse. I get it. But 32 minutes, he played over half the game. It's just impressive. You talked about the conditioning there a few minutes ago. He's just a workhorse. He's the centerpiece of that decor. What do you want to say about him and just what he puts out on the ice to play that much and to play at that high of a level? He's entertaining to watch and he's doing things right.
Yeah, and Barnes has been amazing. Just I think not even just who he is on the ice, but off the ice is one of the biggest things for me. He's so light in the room, but he's got that look and that demeanor of when that flip switches. There's nobody in this division that can stop that, right? And he knows it too, right? And he's a very confident kid, which is awesome as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing for him is just continuing to just control the play. Like I said, I don't think there's a division there's a player in this division that can stop him when he's in that mode, and just getting him into it as early as possible. Yeah, the 32 minutes, honestly, he would have been out there more if there wasn't a little skate issue as well too. We were joking about it too as well. There's about a 5-minute thing where one of the blades couldn't click into the holder, and he would have been out there for at least 4 of those 5 minutes as well, right? So for him, I think it's just continuing to just be himself. I can't imagine what that feels like out there to be as dominant as he is. So just continuing to just let him be himself, and he'll do great things the rest of the way for us.
Quickly before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you played 5 years with the Navy Vets. Obviously, you're super proud to be part of this coaching staff. Real local flavor there with that. You went on to play with the Tillsonburg Thunder and what was the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. You also had a stint in the Netherlands, which is probably a pretty cool experience for you as well, playing overseas. Just take us through the journey and maybe what it's like to be here now in this moment and what you're enjoying about coaching junior hockey the most, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, when it was all said and done there, when we finished, we were a very locally heavy team. I would say maybe there was just 1 to 2 to 3 guys that weren't, didn't come up through the Woodstock minor hockey system. It was tough for us. We never got it done. And I think it was something that when you're 17, 16, 18 coming into the league, you think you've got to buy, you can do it. And, we ran into some very, very good teams in the division, like Air walked through, no problem, right?
They were real good for those
they
years.
were real good, and we played them hard, but we never were going to get it done. And in reflection now, when you get a little bit older, you kick yourself a little bit harder than you need to when you're 22, 23 kind of thing. And it is what it is, right? We were never going to get it done. And it sucked because that was the whole point of all of us playing together, was to win. A lot of us didn't go on to higher levels. We didn't go on to higher leagues just because we wanted to win in Woodstock so bad. And
Right.
it never happened. And it did leave a sour taste in a lot of our mouths. Justin was able to hop right back onto the bench. For the rest of us, we spent a lot of, I would say nights after the bars and all that kind of stuff talking about, kind of what a waste, right? That's how it felt for a bit. And then COVID kind of happened, and I honestly had written the game off. I was done with it. That was it for me. And then, COVID kind of happens and you're stuck at home for a while, and you kind of start to get that hunger and that itch and be like, you know what, this would be fun again. And then, yeah, the birth of the Western Ontario League was huge for myself personally. Bill Ryan and Tillsonburg, I can't say enough great things about him as well. Sends me a message on Twitter, of all places. I get a message and says, hey, would you be interested in coming out for a skate? And, I had played for Adam Wallace here in Woodstock as well, too. And those guys played in Tillsonburg. So I had a little familiarity of what that was going to be all about. And I knew it was good hockey as well, too. So I thought to myself, you know what, let's go try it. We get there in Tillsonburg and just fell in love with the organization and the people that are around. Mike Hawley, Kathy Hawley, Bill Ryan, just incredible incredible people to be in charge of something like that. They really kind of show you what it's all about to just be all in about all of it. And the quality of players that they bring in year and year is, it was huge for myself. Junior C would be the lowest part of anybody that shows up into that league, right? Like you've got guys that have played, like whether guys have little stints in the NHL, AHL, really high overseas pro, like it's insane. And just learning from guys like that have played places, they're not doing anything really super different other than the fact that they just know, right? They're so confident in their abilities. They're so confident in who they are as a person. And I just learned so much from a lot of guys like that. We were also really fortunate to bring in a lot of guys that played for the Caledonia Corvairs, right? They knew how to win. And I mean, when you surround yourself with guys like that, it just only, furthers your knowledge of the game, of how to handle situations. We went down 3-0 the 1 year against Tilbury, sorry, and we came all the way back and won in Game 7, and Jake Brown wins it for us with 20 seconds left and walks through their whole team. But the whole demeanor of the whole thing was, even when we were tied up and I had made a mistake to tie the game up, and you're feeling down, you have a player like Justin Abraham that shows up right just beside you on the bench and goes, it's all right, kid, don't worry about it, right? Like, it is what it is, we're here now, so then we go. And then Jake Brown bails me out. So like, it's just all of it, right? And then we didn't win, and it was frustrating, and to get to the point and finally to learn how to get to that situation of playing winning hockey like that, it was something that I had never been exposed to. We didn't really get the chance to win too many opportunities here in Woodstock in the playoffs. So to be able to get deeper and deeper and learn more about your game and learn how to play the right way, I think is something that I can't wait to get to that stage of the season with these kids, because you have to go through it, and you have to have somebody that's gone through it to be able to get to that level and relate to each other. So actually finally able to get it done the 1 year against Alvinston with Derek Partlow from Norwich on the bench was huge, and just that group of guys that we had, it was probably one of the more fulfilling things that I've done playing the game, right? Besides coaching and winning some championships there, but actually getting to be a part of it on the ice and doing it is something I'll never forget. It's not like it makes you like, oh yeah, I know everything about the game, but it helps you to get to that point where you're like, yeah, okay, you can do this. So it was something, that I wish I could have told myself at 22 that was coming down the line, right? But just to finally get that done, and just that feeling of pushing something over your head was something I'll never forget.
So those experiences then that you just talked about, what kind of coach do you want to be? Based on everything that you just said, what kind of coach do you want to be with the Navy vets in terms of the development piece and having a good player experience and really enjoying and loving junior hockey?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we've had some conversations with some kids this year really is the four of us aren't so far off from our playing days. And I think a lot of kids grew up, if you were younger, that the coaching staff was up here and the players were here. There's that hierarchy, and it kind of comes from that older school mentality of what I say goes, and absolutely there's a room for all of that. But getting down to a level and looking a kid in the eye, I think, and not talking down to them and being able to just relate to any experience that they're going through is huge. We're people at the end of the day. Just because you're a coach does not mean that you're not a human being, right? So the biggest thing I think is just being a personable person. I think that naturally will come easy to me, and then being able to at the same time, like when it does get going hard and you need to push that kid over the mountain or lend a hand and help them up. You want to be able to do that, but it all comes in your repertoire of what you've done all year. So biggest thing is just continuing to build and see where it all goes.
Last one, size up Friday night. Paris Titans, Woodstock Navy Vets, 7:45 Southwood. What are you hoping to see from the boys?
Yeah, just continuing to build. We had another good skate last night at practice. We're pushing the envelope, right? You can see it as deeper and deeper as we get into practices. They're getting better and better, deeper as we go. We just want to make sure we're pushing that envelope. We know Paris. I know Justin went down to watch them last weekend, and the first thing he says is, "Man, they skate. They'll work hard." So perfect. Again, we want to make sure the teams are keeping us honest, and we want to make sure we can see to where we can get to. So everybody in town want to make sure we're coming out supporting. Definitely this year more than ever, we want to make sure we're supporting the kids. It's going to be a fantastic year, so definitely make sure you get out early.
And our thanks to Chris Nauts for joining us on this week's episode of the Anchortown Report. Elsewhere around the Doherty Division, this was the scene in Wellesley on Saturday night. A huge overtime goal from Stuart Sinclair, giving the Applejacks their first win of the season. They take it by a final score of 3-2. A big celebration in the Orchard as Sinclair scored that big goal, giving Wellesley an important victory, their first victory of the season, as they pick up a win on home ice. On Sunday in Hespeler, this was the winning goal in a shootout. Charlie Pies coming in and scoring for the Shamrocks as they defeat the Dorchester Dolphins by a final score of 6-5. And what a start for Hespeler. They are 2-0 to start the season. Speaking of 2-0, the Tavistock Braves are also off to a great start. They picked up back-to-back wins over the weekend. This is a goal from Carter Arsenault, a big snipe on Friday night in a victory over the Paris Titans. Carter Arsenault off to a great start. He's got 5 points in the first 2 Braves games of the season. Let's take a look at the Doherty Division standings. This is after the opening weekend of the year. Like I mentioned, Hespeler, great start. They have 4 points. Norwich Merchants also playing really well to get things started. They are perfect as well. Tavistock 2-0, as we mentioned over the course of this show. The Woodstock Navy Vets splitting their games, but getting that point in overtime on Sunday. They're at 3. Wellesley with that win on Saturday night from that goal from Stuart Sinclair. They have 2 points. Dorchester and New Hamburg with 1 point apiece. And the Paris Titans still looking to get into the win column. Let's take a look at the week ahead in the Doherty Division for the Navy Vets. On Friday night, they continue this 3-game homestand to start the season. The Navy Vets will take on the Paris Titans. Puck drop is 7:45 at the Reeves Community Complex. Then on Saturday, it's the Navy Vets' first road game of the season. They head to Wellesley. Always a great matchup and always a tough rink to get 2 points in. The Navy Vets and Applejacks on Saturday night. That should be a great game. Other big games this weekend include the Tavistock Braves. They are home on Friday night against the Wellesley Applejacks, as well as the New Hamburg Firebirds. They will raise their Doherty Division Championship banner, as well as their South Conference Championship banner from last season. They will go up on the wall at the Wilmot Rec Complex this coming Friday. Puck drop there will be at 7:30 as the Firebirds take on the Hespeler Shamrocks. That should be a great game as well. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this week's episode of the Anchortown Report. Stay tuned weekly. We will have all the news, information, and analysis from the Woodstock Navy Vets, as well as the Doherty Division. I'm Darren Stevenson. Thank you for watching.